All right, everybody, back with another one. We're going to take a look at some breaking news today, January 25th. Some things that have been going on ever since Donald Trump has been back in office. He's been putting through a lot of changes, I guess you could say. And there's been some backlash to some of the stuff that's going on. There's also been some new conspiracy theories. I guess that's something that's going to naturally be a recurring theme on this channel, not on purpose, just that's the way that it seems to be, is uh, going through some of the conspiracy theories that the internet comes up with. And a lot of times I think that it's just people trying to get views and attention, and that they don't even believe what they're saying themselves, but they're putting it out there to grab attention because that's how social media works. You put something out, put a catchy headline out, and you hope that people grab onto it and share it. And even if it's not true, or if it's just a theory or an opinion, and it's not even backed with fact or even plausible, then you get the internet going. You get people, hyping about it and talking about it and believing that it could be a possibility. So we're going to take a look at one of those today. And just so that people don't get confused with this channel, I'm not against conspiracy theories. I completely understand that many of them exist, and many things have happened, especially in America, over the last, 100 years at least, where many conspiracies were proven to be true. And especially with the Freedom of Information Act, where, a lot of secret operations that were secret at the time have since become public, that either the FBI, the CIA, or some three-letter branch, really department of the government was involved in, has become public information and has been proven, or at least the theories that were theories at that time have been proven to be fact. So I'm very aware that a lot of conspiracies are true. But the problem is with today, you have a lot of people on the internet that are just grabbing pieces of things and putting it out there and creating a whole narrative around it. It could be as simple as somebody saying, hey, it'd be interesting if this happened. And then before you know it, somebody that's a reporter or something grabs onto that, says, hey, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'm going to make an article of that and pretend that it is something that's happening and put it out there and see how the media and everybody else responds to it and see if this thing can go viral. It's a lot like high school. It's funny, actually, the politicians in our country that run our government, many people think that just because they hold those positions, they're smarter than us, they're more equipped for that, job, and they're the ones that are going to, help us. They're the ones that are going to create, policies and different things that are going to benefit the American people. What they don't realize is that most of those people are like high school students. They're immature. They have cliques. They gossip, and they create rumors. And this is what a lot of the politicians do. Not all. Some of them are very, mature, established people like Rand Paul and obviously Donald Trump. And I would say, some other people, I would assume that J.D. Vance is like that as well. He's very mature. He seems very, responsible and just a decent guy, family man, things like that. And other politicians as well. There's a lot of great congressmen, senators, people out there that are doing good work and that are, great contributing members of society in the public sphere. But there's a lot of them that are very mature, and they treat being in government like it's high school again, uh, it's even, you can even see it with sometimes when they're doing, they're having hearings in the Congress, or they're, doing a debate or something. Just the way they conduct themselves. It's especially now that there's cameras in all the rooms because everything is made public to the people. It's kind of embarrassing watching these people and realizing that they have power over us. We gave them that power because that's what we do in this country. We are the ones who have the power, we the people, but we forfeit some of that power up to the government to help us do things that we as the individuals cannot do. Um, and seeing the way, that these people are, it's embarrassing. It's not only embarrassing for Americans in this country, but it's embarrassing for us when other countries see how our politicians are. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is like this all over the world. It's not isolated to America because we are all human beings. But yeah, I think American politicians, there's something different about them. But they're very immature and, very high school minded. And so getting back to that point, especially with the media too, they're very similar. They will create a rumor like they're in high school and say, yeah, this sounds like something that could be interesting and could go viral. So we're going to put this out there. We'll call it an opinion piece, but it'll just say opinion in a very small section on the article. No one's even going to see that, or some other spin on it. And they'll put it out there and they'll hope that nobody notices, and they'll act as though it's, going to happen. And even if it's not an opinion piece, they could just say, they could talk to a congressman and say, hypothetically, if we were able to do this, how would that look? And the congressman could say, well, if we did, it would look like this. And they could chop that up and spin it and put it out to the American people as, Congressman so-and-so believes this could happen, or whatever. And that's how the media spins things. I'll give you more context as we go into what we're going to talk about today, the latest conspiracy that seems to be surfacing on the internet. But I just want you to know, as like a preface, this channel's not against conspiracies. Obviously, there are a lot of things that are true, but you also have to know the nature of the world. You have to know and hopefully be able to pull back and look at the big picture. Don't get caught up in every single article and every single thing that gets put out there, because a lot of it is nonsense or never going to happen. In fact, if you read the news, if you went through an entire year's worth of news articles and looked at every single day, not things that happened, not like somebody got shot in New York City, that's an event that already occurred. But if you look at like opinion pieces or, pundits who say they have an idea or a theory or a belief that a prediction that something could become true, compile all that for a year and see how much of it actually came true. I guarantee you the percentage is very small, because most of what people put out are, like I said, just for views, just for clicks, just for people to buy their newspaper or, whatever. But it's not fact-based, and it's not, a lot of it is not grounded on hard evidence that they've collected enough data, and it's possible that this really could go in this direction. I'm being vague just because I'm not talking about a specific issue at hand right now. But just generally, this is what happens. This is what people in the media especially, but politicians do as well. And the people, your everyday people are going through social media and they're seeing a lot of stuff that's not true or doesn't have any basis, doesn't have any standing, is not really plausible. And they're running with it, and it's getting shared all over the place, and it's a lie, or it's just not likely. But it'll really just be here today, gone tomorrow. That's why the people who put it out, they don't really care, because they're just going to keep putting out content with different information and no one will even question them on that not happening, not becoming a reality. So just hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea as to when you do look into things or read things or see things on social media, just don't believe it. Don't believe it 100%. Have a wait and see attitude. Treat it as though it's possible, it could happen. If you care enough about it, look into it a little bit further and see if it affects you in your personal life, your family. And if not, then just kind of leave it be. See what happens. Have a wait and see attitude of let's see what the future actually brings versus believing into something that may or may not ever come to fruition. So we're going to take a look at a couple of quick things here, and then we're going to get into the latest conspiracy that people are floating around on social media. So this is interesting. Trump removes federal security for Fauci, Bolton, and Pompeo. Now, Fauci, obviously, because we know that he had issues with Fauci. He's been public about it for a while. And I think most of the MAGA people and the right are against Fauci because of everything that he did and pushed on the American people with the whole vaccine and the COVID protocols for that whole time. And so most people just kind of, when you find out that he removed his security, it's no surprise. Bolton, similar thing. But Mike Pompeo, the people who are like the real MAGA people, they kind of knew that Trump didn't trust him. He trusted him the first time around because he didn't know any better. And he was coming into office blind. He didn't know which politicians were actually genuine people, who to trust, who to look out for. And there's a lot of snakes. That's why he called it the swamp. He's not lying. There's a lot of people who pretend they're on your side, and they pretend that they're your best friend. They try to get in really close with you because they want to either, see how you operate and then constantly throw monkey wrenches in your path to mess things up for you, which a lot of people did to Trump. Or, it's just like that whole thing of keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. They looked at him as their enemy, and they wanted to be really close to him so that they would always know what he was up to and maybe how to counter it and things like that. But for a while, Pompeo was, really a part of his inner circle. And he even had him speak at one of, I believe this is correct, I think I remember seeing this. He even spoke at one of Trump's final rallies before the election in 2024. And he was, they were floating the idea that he would be back on Trump's cabinet. And, there was, again, a lot of media hype about that, right? Going back to conspiracies not coming true. There was, for a short period of time, I remember seeing a lot of people saying he was going to be on Trump's cabinet again in 2025 when he took office. And here we are just in January, and he's actually revoking his federal security. So a lot of stuff that they say on the internet does not come true. But it's interesting because he had him in his inner circle, and I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him speak at that one of those final rallies. And here we are. He didn't forget that he was a snake. He didn't forget that he was a warmonger, and he revoked his security because I think Trump realizes this time it's his last term in office, and he's got to get everything that he wanted to get done the first time around this time to be able to, I guess, fulfill whatever it is that he had envisioned as his plan for America, right? But we'll get to that, shortly. There's some theories about this may not be his last term. So as I was saying, there is a lot of snakes in the swamp still, and Trump has to drain those people out. And you could even see it here with the Pete Hegseth confirmation. There were some Republicans that voted against him getting confirmed. They didn't want him, even though he was Trump's pick. And even though he's a decent guy. He's a definitely qualified for this position with his military background and things like that. He's also a conservative. So naturally, you would think that the Republicans would unanimously vote for him. But Pete Hegseth was confirmed as the Secretary of Defense, and J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote. So it was a tie. Even though the Republicans won the House, there was still a tie, which means some Republicans voted against him getting this position as Secretary of Defense. So, there's still a lot of snakes in the swamp for sure. And we're going to look at that a little bit further to see who those people may have been. But he got it. Pete Hegseth is now the Secretary of Defense. Here is a short clip of the hearing.
If not, on this vote, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the nomination is confirmed.
So there you go. It was a tie, and J.D. Vance broke the tie and voted him in. He's already better than Mike Pence was. So now we're going to take a look at who is responsible for making it a tie. Well, it was the 50-50 vote, and if you look, obviously the Republicans won the Congress, the House and Senate, during this election. So we had the majority of those seats. It shouldn't have been a tie, but it was. So that means that Republicans had to vote for with the Democrats against Pete Hegseth's confirmation. And if you look, it says the vote came down to a party line. The Republican Senator Susan Collins, Mitch McConnell, and Lisa Murkowski all defected. So these three Republicans are, I think, maybe the only three to vote against Pete Hegseth for this position. And if you don't know by now, these people are RINOs. These people are in office pretending to be Republicans. That's why they call them RINO, Republican in name only. And they are, and in this moment, they could have voted with the Republicans on this. It's not like it's a big deal. It's not like it's something that, was really, really important to them, that was like a gray area where, the Republicans or the Democrats could kind of agree on the situation. And that does happen sometimes where it's not something that is staunchly part of the Republicans' policies or beliefs, or the Democrats vice versa. But they know, because these people are warmongers, they know that Pete Hegseth is not looking to go to war unless it's absolutely necessary to protect America, and that he's probably going to put a lot of our resources to protecting us at home in a defensive way, building up our military again, restocking our ammo, maybe even getting some of the stuff that we left over in the Middle East and other countries that we just left there, billions of dollars worth of taxpayer money in, military vehicles and weapons that we just basically gave to, non-ally countries that are enemies and possibly a threat to America. We gave them stuff that they could maybe later attack us with, for free, by the way, especially when we pulled out of Afghanistan under Joe Biden. But these people don't want to see a guy like that in office in this position, because he will not go to war, and war makes certain people a lot of money. Instead, he's going to defend our borders and do other things like that. So that's probably why they voted against him. But just so you know, these three Republicans voted against Pete Hegseth getting that position, and they could have stopped it if it wasn't for J.D. Vance and his tie-breaking vote. They could have stopped Pete Hegseth from taking that position. And I actually think he's going to be very good for it. I know a lot of people are saying that he's not qualified, but we've talked about this in previous videos. I forget which one exactly, but you can go back and look. I think it was the one where he was having his confirmation hearing, so you can go look for that video. And we talked about the qualifications for that position. There really are none. You pretty much just have to be an American. You have to, live in the area that you're serving, which this is national, so I think he could live anywhere, but he would likely reside in D.C. Because that's the capital. And very few other things. Maybe like no criminal record to some degree. But other than that, a person that's an American, that's the person that's qualified. A person that loves this country and wants to serve this country, that's the qualification. So I think he's going to be good for this position. But we're going to see. Like I said, have a wait and see attitude. Don't put your hope and faith really into anything but God, because people will disappoint you, especially over time. A lot of things happen over time in life. But let's just see what happens with him. At least now you know who the Republicans were that betrayed and were basically traitors. They went against who Trump wanted, who J.D. Vance wanted, and who many of the American people that voted for Trump wanted for this position. So now we're going to get into and take a look at what this latest conspiracy is that people are talking about. And it is about Donald Trump possibly taking a third term. Now, many people have said this in the past, many times for probably almost 100 years now, and I'll explain why. But there were always concerns that somebody would do a third term as president and just sort of remain in office and become like a king again. Because this country was founded on our constitutional governing system, because we had left, a lot of these people had fled Great Britain and, the continent of Europe back in the, 16 and 1700s to start America. And they came from a monarch. They came from countries where, they had a king in place and he ruled until he died, and then his heirs would pick up the torch and continue on. And there was like no way out of that, and the everyman couldn't run the country. You had to be part of the royalty, right? And that's how things were for, basically ever in, world politics throughout history. But America changed that. We created a system where the government was by, for the people, right? That was the whole idea. The people would run the nation, and they would delegate a small amount of power to the states. And then the residual power that was left, that even the states really couldn't handle, would go to the federal government, which would cover things on a national level. And that's the system that we have today. It's a lot more complicated than that, but it really is the greatest system. And this last election proved it, because even though there was a lot of, questionable things that went on, and even with the previous election, the people spoke, their candidate won, and now we're actually living that reality. So as many people have said over the last couple decades, they've given up hope on America. What you're really doing is giving up hope on what the founding fathers put together. And you're also giving up hope on God, saying that, this nation was an experiment is really, it's not right. I've explained this in previous videos about how God founded this nation to be a Christian nation, a place for the Christians to go and call home. And it didn't belong to anyone else. Yes, there were natives living here at the time, but it was not a country. It was not a nation that was designated to a certain people. America was the first country to, as far as we know historically, ever be on this landmass of North America, right? It's the first nation, ever to really be and have a government on this landmass that we know of historically. There are theories about maybe, other civilizations, but they really can't pinpoint it to this exact area. But either way, America was founded with that belief, and the system works. It still works till today. And there were fears for a while because George Washington took office. He was the first president, as everybody knows, and he served 2 terms. And he was the first person to, basically get this thing going with the presidency. He set the example, right? But what he did was he stepped down after his 2nd term and said, no man should serve more than 2 terms, because then you run the risk of them, just deciding to stay on and continue in that position and become a king. And that would basically negate everything that they were putting together with this new governing system. And it was a good thing he stepped down. And then some years later, they came up with the Constitution. I think it was 1789. It was ratified. Um, so he was obviously a part of, that whole process, getting the country up and running, but he stepped down. He did the right thing. And he basically set a precedent that no one should run for 2 terms. But it wasn't a law. So we went on into, the later years of the 1700s, 1800s, and then even 1900s until FDR held office. So now we're going to get into that. But this is the article here. GOP lawmaker pushes constitutional change for 3rd Trump presidential term. What they're basically saying is, they're going to try and see if they can get Trump a 3rd term. Now, a lot, some people are panicking online because they're afraid that this is a possibility. And then some people are, rolling their eyes, thinking that this could never happen. And, really where you should be is in the middle. But this has happened before in the past, and it likely won't happen again in the future. And we'll get into why. But people have been saying this for a while. They said it when Obama was in office. I think they even said it before that with Bush, because they had the Iraq war going on, and there was maybe an idea that he would try and stay on a 3rd term to, continue and finish the war, because it was such a high risk thing for America to be in this war. And after the 9/11 attacks, for him to just leave office and transition presidencies was, scary, because it could have taken the war either way. We could have, won it or lost it. It ended up not working out that great anyway. But he didn't stay on. And then when Obama came in, he served his 2 terms, and people kept saying they were afraid that he was going to serve a 3rd term. He was going to suspend the Constitution, put us under martial law, and hold a 3rd term and just stay in until whatever he became king. And that didn't happen. Now, there's a lot of talk about how Obama allegedly may have run a 3rd term behind Joe Biden because he wasn't cognitively there, and then maybe Obama was pulling the strings. But that's not proven, and it can't be proven, because he would never admit to it, Joe Biden would never admit to it, and whoever was involved would never admit to it. So, that's a conspiracy that may or may not be true, but it's not worth betting your life on. He definitely probably advised him on many issues, and Joe Biden maybe took that advice and went with it. And, that really can't be considered a 3rd term for Obama. He could just be considered an advisor to Biden because he held the position previously. The proposal was put together by a Tennessee representative, Andy, I think his name is Ogles, but I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He introduced the resolution to amend the Constitution to allow the president to serve 3 terms, specifically benefiting Trump's non-consecutive presidency while excluding Obama, Bush, and Clinton. So I think what he's saying is it's for presidents to serve 3 terms, except every president before Trump. Yeah, I don't really think that could get passed. If it gets passed, it would have to probably be something that you couldn't pinpoint specific people to serve a 3rd term. It would either just be the president could do it or not do it. And even if they served before for 1 or 2 terms, they could still do it for a 3rd term, no matter who they are. I don't think you can leave out specific people if they actually did get the amendment through. But this is what it says. The amendment faces steep odds, requiring 2/3 Congress approval and 38 state ratifications, with Democrats controlling 22 states, making the passage unlikely in current political landscape. So let's just take a look at the history of this real quick. So again, this was not a law. This was just a precedent that George Washington set. But some people may not know. We actually did have a president who won not only 3, but 4 elections, and it was FDR. And it'll make a little bit of sense once you understand the context. But this is the 1932 election. This was the first one that he won. Now, if you know what was going on during that time, it was the, buildup and eventually the, happening of World War II. FDR won, and he won by a lot. He won all these states. So it's funny, like sometimes people go, especially the MAGA people, will say, Trump won, like so many states, and, he had a red wave, or the Democrats will pretend that there was like a blue wave with Obama. I'll show you the differences. in FDR and even Nixon. You could see, I think he won more states and electoral votes than any president in history. But this is what a blue wave looks like. It's almost the entire country blue. And then oddly enough, Pennsylvania was red. New Jersey, I think, I can't actually, that might be Delaware, was red. And let's actually take a look at that now. Yeah, that was Delaware, which is funny because I think Joe Biden's family's from Delaware. So back in the 30s, they didn't want a Democrat president, but today, they vote blue pretty much all the time, right? And then you have Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine were the only states to vote against him in the 1932 elections. So he won. That was his first term. Okay. Now let's take a look at his second term, 1936. He won even more states. He got Pennsylvania, he got Delaware, and he got Connecticut. And he only lost 2 states, right? So this time he won with even more electoral votes, 532, versus his, let's just refresh what that was, 472. So, basically 50 more votes, electoral votes, for him the second time around. So he won with an even bigger margin. Now, 1936 should have been his last term, but because this wasn't a law, he ended up, and the war was going on. It was too risky to switch presidencies, during that war, because it was a world war, and it was the biggest world war we had ever fought. And there were concerns because of Hitler and because of, him possibly taking over the entire world, and it could have been the end of America being a free nation. So there was really a lot on the line for a lot of people, and they voted him, in a third term, and he held office. And if you look here, he actually got less electoral votes the third time around because people started to realize against what, George Washington and the founders had in mind. Yes, it's risky switching presidencies during the middle of a major world war, the biggest in history still to this day. But they saw the other risk of, if we have somebody serve more than 2 terms, they could just stay in there, become a king, continue this war forever. And then there goes the American system anyway. So it's either Hitler's going to conquer the world and take it over, or we're going to crumble from the inside out. And that was the concern back then. So that's why many of these states band together and decided to vote against him. But, he actually won a 4th term as well, 1944. So he actually ran for 16 straight years. Think about how long that is, right? That's, Obama's entire term and Trump's entire, Trump and Biden back, those two back to back, all those years. So from when Obama got in 2008 up until just now when Trump took office, that's how long FDR was basically president over in America. So the 4th time around, he actually won less votes than even the first time. This was his least amount, I think, 432. And that's because people really started seeing, and this was, by the way, at the height of the war, right? 1945 is when the war basically ended. This was when things were at a boiling point. We were getting ready to drop the nuclear bomb, the atom bomb. And, there was just so much going on at this time. It was really, really dangerous to, switch presidencies at that crucial point. But he got in again because the people, were just too concerned of switching presidencies at that time. But more and more states said, no, we see the risk in this. We can't have a king. And so just shortly after that, finally, 1948, you had Truman. He won. Now look at this, though. The States' Rights Party came about and took a few states. Now a third party gained some ground because this was a really important issue in America, that a president really shouldn't have more than 2 terms. He runs the risk of, becoming a king or even a dictator, right? So America learned this lesson, and we'll get right back to that. I do want to finish that point about America learning that lesson and then what eventually happened with the constitutional amendment. But just to go back to what I was saying before, this is his second term, which was the most popular. So, this is what a blue wave looks like for everybody. 1936, he won every single state except two. And at this point, we didn't have Alaska or Hawaii yet, I believe, as part of America as two of the states. So he won out of all the states, he lost two. Now let's go take a look at 2008. Obama won, and this is it, 50-50. And then 2012 came around. I think he actually took a little bit more. So 2008, he had 365 electoral votes. 2012, 332. So actually a little less second time around. So this was like a 50-50 split for America on Obama. And if you look at Trump, right? Red wave. Not that red. FDR had way more states. And, Maine was even split. So pretty good for a president that ran his first time, won his first time, non-politician, no political background. It was pretty amazing what he did. But even Biden in 2020, right? 81 million votes. And he basically split the country. This was not a red, blue, rather, wave like FDR had in the 30s. So sometimes you'd have to look back and see, well, how could this person win that many states? And they still didn't even get what this person got in 2020. But now let's go and take a look at the other side, right? You had Richard Nixon won. This is 1972. So 68. The country was, still a little split up. And Nixon won this first time. And the whole Watergate scandal, there's a lot more to that. So talk about conspiracies. That's something you can look into. But a lot of people think that Nixon was, not liked because he lost to Kennedy the first time around. And he had the whole Watergate scandal. But this was Nixon's first time, 1968. 1972, he won every single state but Massachusetts. He won every single state in the country. And by this time, we had Alaska and Hawaii. He won those too. He won more states and more electoral votes, I believe, I could be wrong about this, than any other president in American history. And if he didn't win the most, he's second, for sure. So this is what a red wave looks like. Yes, Trump did a great job, but this is a red wave. This is a true red wave, 49 out of 50 states. No one's ever done that since. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. And this is what 2024 looks like. Trump did a lot better this time around. He did a good job. He got over 300 electoral votes, 77 million. And we don't know, obviously, how much of this is totally accurate, if this is all completely reported, if, they were able to identify any fraud and eliminate it from these numbers. But this is what the final was for 2024. So I think this was his best yet. This is the most he ever did. But this is just to compare between the different presidencies and just like how polarizing things were back then. So that is the presidential electoral breakdown and the map and all that stuff. Now I want to take a look at the point I was making about what happened with FDR and why we're not doing third terms anymore. So as you can see here, on November 5th, 1940, so obviously election day, he won his third term, and this is when people started getting concerned. The third term, decision-dominated election campaign against the Republican contender. Roosevelt won by a wide margin, and he was able to win a fourth term in 1944, which we just looked at. But the popular fallout about the concept of a long-term president led to the ratification of the 22nd Amendment in 1951, right? So just after he left office for his fourth term, they created the 22nd Amendment that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. The amendment read. Okay, so that's basically what that looks like. And then this talks over here about how some other presidents in the past did try and do a third term, but they didn't win because, Americans back then really, were closer to it. They knew that that wouldn't be good for the country. The only reason that FDR was able to get away with this was because, like I said, World War II was such a big and scary thing for the world at that time, not just America, that they were just concerned about presidential change during that time. So like I always say, I like to go straight to the source and see for ourselves what that looks like firsthand. So let's take a look at the actual 22nd Amendment. A little bit of it is what we just read. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when this article was proposed by the Constitution, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during the term within which this article becomes operative from holding the office of president or acting as president during the remainder of such term. And then section 2 just says the article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission to the state by Congress. So that's the thing. They're submitting it to Congress now. It might not be amended for 7 years. Has to be done within 7 years. But it could go up to that point if they keep pushing it and fighting it. And it could take that long. Think about that, right? Donald Trump's 78 years old? He'd be 85 when it finally went through, and then had to run another 4 years. He'd be almost 90 by the time that he was finished with his third term, if that's how things went down. So the likelihood of it, and him even doing it, if it did go through, it's probably very unlikely. Yeah, Trump's a really good guy. He's in, not in like great shape, but he's got a ton of energy. He seems healthy and young for his age. So it's possible he could do it, but it's probably unlikely. And then let's just take a little bit of a dive deeper into what a quick Google search will show you about what's involved in getting this amendment ratified. Congress must propose the amendment, and then 3/4 of the states must ratify it. The process is outlined in Article 5 of the Constitution. Both the House and Senate must approve the proposed amendment by a 2/3 vote. They couldn't even get 2/3 to vote in Pete Hegseth. It was literally a tie. Do you think they're going to get 2/3 vote for this? Especially when Trump's currently in office now? The Democrats would never go for it. And apparently some Republicans wouldn't either, because they wouldn't even vote in Pete Hegseth, right? Congress can also call a convention to propose amendments of 2/3 of state legislatures requested, if they request it. The amendment must be ratified by 3/4 of the states, and the amendment is sent to the states for ratification after it passes Congress. The president does not sign amendment into law. So obviously that's just how the process works. With the Constitution is a lot different than other laws going through circulation in the government. And the Constitution has only been amended 27 times in its history. That's how long and complicated the process is. And it's done that way on purpose to keep the government from constantly changing laws, changing, our governing system on us. They make it very difficult. That's why the founders designed it this way. And you have to get the majority of the states, the majority of the country, the majority of, Congress to vote on all this stuff to actually get it passed. And it's just highly unlikely, especially now the country's so divided politically between like Democrat and Republican. Not really as much anymore in other ways, but between Democrat and Republican, it's very harshly divided. So you're not going to get a majority of people, like I said, to vote on this, especially with Trump in office right now. There's a lot of Democrats that do not want to see him get a third term, and the RINO Republicans don't either. They didn't even want him to win this time around. So I find it highly unlikely, highly, highly unlikely that this would happen, especially right now. Maybe when a Democrat's in office, possibly, but even that's unlikely too. So, yeah, just don't get caught up in the conspiracies. I really don't think that this is going to be a thing. It's going to be in the media for a little bit, and then it's going to be out because Trump's going to be so busy doing things that it's going to eclipse this talk. And like I said, by the time it even got, pushed through and approved and everything, he might be in his mid-80s and might not want to run a third term just to prove a point. But anyway, that's it for this video. Just wanted to go over that and take a peek at what's going on in the news today. A lot of breaking stuff. And yeah, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It definitely helps the channel grow. But most importantly, put in the comments. Let me know what you think about the things that I talk about on here, some of the facts that I present, some of my opinions. You're more than welcome to argue with me and disagree with me. Put it in the comments so we could have a conversation. And let me know if there's other topics or other things you want me to do videos on. I definitely want to do more content and change it up, not always do politics. So let me know if there's other things you want to discuss, and I'd be happy to, take a look and respond to your comments. But that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son. And it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throwing your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future. And I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.